Hey, I'm Joe Forward, Communications Director for the State Bar of Wisconsin, and we're here at the annual meeting and conference in Lake Geneva. And today we're here with Emil, who is our new host of the Bottom Up podcast. Emil, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, Joe?
Doing well. So, what better way to launch our new podcast, Bottom Up, than to do it at the annual meeting and conference? How has the conference been for you? Let's chat a little bit.
I agree. The conference has been amazing, and it's one of those moments, one of those things that reminds us on why it's important to have an annual conference and why it's important to be part of a tribe. And so, seeing everyone back in person has been fantastic, and obviously, in a huge part, to the great work that you guys do at the State Bar. So, thanks for all you do.
Okay, so Emil is the president of the Young Lawyers Division for a few more days, is that right?
I guess. I think now I'm technically the past president after yesterday, but I'm still involved at least with OILD one more year. But I just finished up my term as president, I think yesterday. Yeah.
Okay. So tell us about the new podcast, and it's called Bottom Up.
Yes.
And we're going to launch it here right now with an introduction of your host, Emil. Tell us about the podcast a little bit, and then we want to get to know you a little bit about a little bit more about you as the host.
Sure. As it relates to the podcast, it was really formed out of a need or an idea of exposing younger lawyers and the issues that they contend with to the larger bar. A lot of conversations that take place within the bar as it relates to issues that affect lawyers tend to be very top down, right? So you meet older or more experienced attorneys at a state bar sort of trying to work through these issues with what I would call some limited perspectives. It's oftentimes assumed that younger lawyers don't have much to offer early on in their career, which I understand. I'm not the one saying that, you get out of law school day one inherently perfect at what you do. But considering the fact that we do have younger lawyers or people who would classify as being newer to the profession, and they make up a significant portion of the bar, younger lawyers do have a stake, and they do have ideas, they do have issues, and they do have a perspective. And so the podcast is really intended to focus or shine a spotlight on those issues that they contend with, and get to view and frame some of these issues from a young lawyer's perspective. So I anticipate having younger lawyers who are either doing some great stuff within the community or the state at large and the nation at large, and also some older lawyers, and maybe sometimes have a dialogue back and forth where we can meet on some sort of an equal footing to discuss very serious and very important issues, whatever those might be. So that's the whole idea behind the podcast, and I think it's going to be quite impactful.
That's great, Emil. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you come to law? What's your background? What's your upbringing? What more can we learn about you?
Sure. I grew up in Nigeria till I was 16. Started college at 16. Graduated at college at 19. Became a lawyer at 22. By the time I was 23, 24, I also had my MBA. And I started my firm at 24, I think. It's been 6 years. Hi, Megan. It's been 6 years. And I primarily practice in civil litigation and employment law, and I also counsel closely held businesses and some high net worth individuals. And so, I came to the law initially because I didn't want to go to med school. If you have immigrant parents, your choices are quite limited in terms of professions. And so when I told my mom I wasn't going to go to med school, she almost had a panic attack. And then I said, I'm going to law school. She said, okay, all right, cool. All's not lost in the world. But no, I really ended up going to law school because I felt that was my calling. The whole medical thing was just never my dream. It was more of my parents' dreams and a dream that was laid out for me. But throughout my undergraduate time, while trying to navigate those waters, I came to the realization that I wanted to be a lawyer. And when I went into law school, I felt so at home. I felt alive. It felt like it was what I was supposed to do. And so, right now I do a lot of, I run my firm. I'm also a serial entrepreneur in a sense. I own a couple of other real estate ventures that my wife and I do together. And then in my spare time, I sit on a couple of boards. I'm a current president-elect of the Milwaukee Bar Association. I'm an adjunct at the law school, teaching trial at Marquette. And I have 3 beautiful daughters, and my wife is pretty dope. And so, that's Emil in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I know that's kind of a lot. But.
Yeah. I mean, Emil, I follow you on social media, and I've seen some of your posts about, the work-life balance and making time for your family.
Yes.
Do you think that will be one of the focuses of the podcast, is how young lawyers can adapt to working life and raising families, in the beginnings of their career?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to let it slide now because I haven't come up with a better phrase. But my new thing these days is that the phrase work-life balance really bothers me.
Okay.
In a sense. And the reason for that is because it makes work seem like it's not part of life. And when you position that dynamic in that way, I get the intent, and I think the intent is pure, and I agree with the intent, but it makes work seem diametrically opposed to life, which isn't the case. Most times when people say that phrase, and when I use that phrase, I've been guilty of using it as well, people were trying to denote the idea that we want some flexibilities and modulation. Like the Bible says, there's a time for everything, and even RBG says you can have it all, but you can't have it all at the same time. But again, even something like that's a conversation that I hear from top down, where it seems every young lawyer is being pegged or put into this box as wanting XYZ. But just like with every other generation, and just like with every other sector of life, as a group, we do have very diverse opinions and outlooks about certain things, right? And so this is supposed to be an avenue and a show where we tease out those nuances. But yes, we will be talking about that issue. And what's going on right now, is especially as it relates to young lawyers, is for the first time, I think also exacerbated by the pandemic, we're forcing an entire profession to rethink what success means, to rethink how we practice, where we practice, to rethink compensation beyond just cents and dollars, and it's fantastic and it's fabulous, and we need to tease out those, where that goes from here on out. But yes, it is something that I will be talking about and focusing on, because it's an issue that I think we're all trying to navigate and redefine, and which is so exciting in many regards. I had a conversation the other day with some folks out here, and they said it used to be a badge of honor to say you worked 10 years and never took a vacation. Well, that's crazy and that's insane. And now that's changing, right? Think about this. People who said they never called in sick. I mean, have you worked for 10 years and never called in sick? That means you've been going to work sick, right? And so, we're starting to rethink some of these crazy things that we wore as a badge of honor. But on the flip side of things too, right? And this is another reason with the work-life balance phrase that bothers me. When I think of balance, I think of 50-50. But we all know that we can't rest 50% of the time and work 50% of the time. So I also believe that we need to tease out conditions of work, compensation issues, yada yada, but we need to stop making work seem like a dirty word. It is our purpose. There is part of our purpose on this earth is to work. Even God rested only on the 7th day after working for 6 days. I don't know any successful person or any entrepreneur who said day one, I want to rest 50% of the time and work 50% of the time. There's a time for everything, and sometimes in your life, there are phases where you have to grind, and there are phases where you have to step back and reevaluate and take time for what's important. Work is a very important part of our life. It's not the only part of our life, but we cannot displace the importance of work.
So in your time as the Young Lawyer Division President, what were some of the major issues that you would hear from young lawyers?
So one of the things we were able to do, and I'm proud of, we were able to get back into in-person events. I think the YLC was one of the first state bar in-person events that occurred in March, and that was top of my list. And it's so funny, that wasn't the year I intended to have. I didn't expect that. While being president-elect or president of YLD, I will be, restricted solely to the lenses of a 4K Zoom camera. But so it was, and we made do with what we had and what in the situation as best as we could. But we were able to get lawyers back in person, and the reason it was important to do that is we had about 2 classes of younger lawyers who probably went for about a year or 2 years and never met any other lawyer outside of boxes on a Zoom conference screen. And the reason that's important is when you first come on into the bar as when you first become an attorney, there is that sense of, so what does that mean? Do I know what I'm doing? And I'll tell you this, because there's no magical dust that gets sprayed upon you that says, hey, now you're a lawyer, feel like it. It's the camaraderie and conversations that you have with other lawyers, state bar events, networking events, going into the courtroom if you're a litigator, talking to lawyers on the elevator while you're in the courtroom, and that was just missing. Actually dressing up and looking the part. And that was just gone for some, and so there was a sense of frustration. And younger lawyers, especially those very early in their career, wanted to get back in person. And we were able to do that. As it relates to the other accomplishment I'm very proud of, I think we had the largest candidate pool and a very diverse slate of candidates run for board positions for the YLD. I think we had about 20 people run for about 7 seats. And that's a testament to some direct work that the team and I did in terms of reaching out to potential candidates from across the state, across the spectrum, and that was our D&I plan. As a division, we had to go through this period where we look at our D&I plans and talk about what we're going to do. And during my term, I told everyone, the D&I plan's simple. We're not going to talk about this stuff because I'm getting sick and tired of it because the solutions are quite clear. I said, if you have diverse perspectives at the table, the outcomes naturally become much more diverse. So the D&I plan is we're going to get diverse voices and opinions and perspectives and people and background at the table, in the room where it happens, and watch what happens next. The rest of it is just talk, and it's just jazz. That's some quantifiable stuff, and those are the 2 things I'm proud of. During my term, and also championing the issues of young lawyers and presenting young lawyers to the rest of the state bar as, hey, we have something to offer, we're here, see us, and we're great, and could be better.
That's fantastic. So, Emil, I know we're going to be diving more deeply into a lot of these different issues moving forward. What can people expect from the podcast moving forward? We're going to do this once a month, right?
Yes. People can expect awesome guests, exciting topics, honest conversations, raw conversations, hard conversations, and an array of perspectives. We need to really challenge the idea that we're not a monolith of thought. And young lawyers as well have diverse perspectives about things, and so we're going to really champion these diverse perspectives on different issues. So I expect a real hour every month where like nothing that's out there, at least in terms of a podcast, a legal podcast. And I think the authenticity of it is going to carry through, and that's what I'm looking forward to, having these real conversations.
Well, Emil is your host. Look for the Bottom Up podcast starting in July, and we look forward to it, Emil.
Well, thank you very much, Joe, for your work on this. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited.